Hello everyone, welcome back to another NFL video. If you missed our last one, we went over the NFC North win totals and schedules and kind of gave you what I thought would be the win totals, some best bets from that video, and whether or not the Chicago Bears would lose the division again. This video, go ahead and check that video out if you missed it. Today, we are going to talk about the NFC East. We are going to go through all the schedules and win totals and see if there are any good bets that we can be making right now before the season starts on any of these teams. Let's go ahead and jump right in with the Super Bowl champion Eagles. So before the season started last year, I picked the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl, and I have the receipts to prove that. The main reason that I picked them to go to the Super Bowl was because they're an elite team with elite players, but they had such an easy schedule because of their Super Bowl slump the year before. And that's another thing that we can't forget, is that the Eagles went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and then the year after that, the wheels completely fell off the bus towards halfway through the season. And, they had a terrible, terrible run. But that set them up for an easy schedule last year, which helped them to go to the Super Bowl. So the Eagles' 14 wins from 2024 aren't as impressive as they look on the schedule because they picked up easy wins against the Saints, the Browns, the Giants, the Cowboys twice, the Jaguars, the Panthers. They also only won their games against those bad teams by a few points. They beat the Saints by 3 points. They beat the Browns by 4 points, and they won against the Jaguars by 5 points. They won against the Panthers by 6 points. So these were all close games. Obviously, the Eagles probably would have won those games regardless. I'm not saying that any of those teams would have won. The Eagles just would have played harder and probably still won the game. But it's just pointing out that any one of those games could have been a fluky loss for them. So I'm not saying they're going to be bad this year, but I am saying that they might look worse this year than last year because they have a tougher schedule. Now, can they still win their division? I think they still could. But let's just take a look at the wins and losses here. So before you start grumbling about where I put the wins and losses, if you saw my last video, you'll understand we're not trying to pick the exact winners of each of these matchups week to week. We can do that during the season. What we're doing right now is trying to find sort of just a median number of how many wins we think that the Eagles will have and comparing that against the Vegas line to see if we have any kind of edge here. So last year, the Eagles won 5 division games. This year, I think the Cowboys are going to be much better. I think the Commanders are going to be much better. I don't think the Giants will be much better, but I'm going to go ahead and bring that win total from 5 division games down to 4. Now, we can go ahead and give the Eagles the win against the only 2 non-playoff teams on their schedule, which is the Raiders and the Bears. So I'm going to go ahead and just give those easy wins to them. From here, things get a little bit more complicated. There are 9 teams left. All were playoff teams from 2024. And so I'm just going to split that in half. If you saw my other video, this is what we did with the Lions and all the other teams. We're going to split those teams in half, giving the Eagles the benefit of the doubt. So I'll give 5 wins to the Eagles and 4 losses. This puts the Eagles at a win total of 11. The Vegas line is 11.5. So it's very close, but we've established, I would almost say, a floor for the Eagles of about 11. Now, could the Eagles win more games? I think they could. I think they could win up to 2 more games potentially. And could they lose a game or 2? Yes, maybe 1. I don't see them being below a 10-win team, but I do think it's possible. We saw what happened with their Super Bowl hangover 2 years ago, and if that happens again, they could easily get under 10. I am not a big fan of Nick Sirianni. I don't think he's a good coach. I know they just paid him and extended his contract, but I am not a fan of him, and I think they should have booted him during that 2022 season. So this here is a line that I'm going to stay away from. I'm not going to bet this win total, but I wouldn't begrudge you if you wanted to bet this. Just be careful with the Eagles. I think that they're going to have a much rougher schedule. So moving on to the Commanders, they played very well in 2024, better than they had any right to. They've been in a rebuilding year since I can remember. They had a good run there with RG3 for a second, but they've never really been an elite team. Jaden Daniels, though, is an elite quarterback. He has crazy potential in this league. The pieces that they've put around him are not great. Most of them are, aging veterans who played well last year, but they don't have much of a defense, so they can't really stop anybody. So they have to race to the top. for all of their games, which is what they did. It's just, can they keep that up? So they had a lot of easy win matchups last year, like the Cardinals, the Browns, the Panthers, the Bears, the Giants twice, the Titans, the Saints. And their schedule is not going to be that easy in 2025 because they made the playoffs last year. So last year, the Commanders won 4 division games, including 1 game against the Eagles. I don't know that they can do that again. So I am going to drop them down to 3 just to be on the safe side. But we want to just keep in mind that they could still get those 4 division wins. So from here on out, I'm going to look at the playoff teams first. Those are the toughest matchups on the schedule here. So there are 6 playoff teams on this schedule, apart from the ones that we already counted against the Eagles. So in 2024, the Commanders played only 3 playoff teams besides the Eagles, and they only won 1 of those games. So I'm going to dish out 4 losses and 2 wins. So we're not quite splitting it in half. The 5 teams that are left are mid to low performing teams. So I will give the Commanders the 3 wins and the 2 losses out of this group, giving them the benefit of the doubt on the higher end of that split. This puts the Commanders at 8 wins. The Vegas line is 9.5. So clearly Vegas thinks the Commanders are going to do much better than this. But in order for that to be the case, they are going to have to win a couple of tough games against playoff caliber teams. Now, they could win a couple of those easier games, maybe in their matchup. Maybe they end up sweeping the Cowboys. Maybe they win some of these easier games as well. But I also think the Falcons are going to be playing hard this year for a playoff run. So I don't see them pulling off more than 3 extra wins. So to me, their ultimate ceiling is 10. Well, I guess it would be 11. But the line is 9.5, and that's just too close for me. So I'm not going to be betting over this line, and I'm not going to bet against it because I feel like betting against Jaden Daniels is almost like betting against Patrick Mahomes, which is usually not good for your wallet, although this Super Bowl, it definitely was good. So I'm going to stay away from this. The Cowboys had a disgusting season last year. It was horrible. I know everybody hates the Cowboys. I'm also a Cowboy hater. I think it's wild that they claim to be America's team just because they have the most fans and had the best marketing 40 years ago or even longer. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Cowboys. I think it's funny when they don't do very well, but I'm going to try not to let my personal biases factor into this at all. I am a big fan of data. So let's just look at the data. Last year, Dak was not healthy. Okay, he only played half his games, and the games he did play in they didn't do very well. He had no one to throw to, and Dak is a ball slinger. So if we look at 2 years ago, Dak led the league in touchdown passes, tied with Jordan Love. So if he can get back to that, we're even partway back to that, with now George Pickens on one side and CeeDee Lamb on the other side. I think the Cowboys are going to have a much better season. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs. Actually, I think I have them missing the playoffs here in my projections, but they're going to have a better season. So even last year during their horrible season, they still swept the Giants and they had a win against the Commanders. So I'm going to give them those same 3 division wins this year. There's 6 playoff teams left on the Cowboys schedule. And in 2024, the Cowboys only beat 2 playoff teams. So I'm going to give them 2 wins against this group. There's 5 teams left that are mid or bad, and I will give the Cowboys 3 of those 2 wins and 2 losses, 3 of the 5 wins and 2 losses out of that group. So this leaves us with 8 wins for the Cowboys. The Vegas line is 7.5. I could see the Cowboys losing 1 more of these games potentially, so that would put them at 7, barely hooking this line. But I can see them winning up to 2 or 3 more games. So I see a range of 7 to 11 for the Cowboys here, and they could make a playoff run. Now, I don't think that they're going to make the playoffs. I think this is an incredibly tough division. Probably one, well, not as tough as the NFC North, but one of the tougher divisions in the NFC. I'm going to stay away, I would normally stay away from this line, but I'm going to take a chance on the Cowboys this year because the bet is plus money. So I wouldn't be taking this line if it was juiced. And then the miserable Giants. Let's talk about them really quick. I hate talking about the Giants. I also hate the Giants. I actually kind of hate this whole division. But they've been miserable for a long time. And I remember when they benched Eli Manning. and I called it. I bet against him that game because I thought they would bench him, and they did, and they just haven't been good in a long time. So they have an incredibly hard schedule despite being one of the worst teams last year, partially because just the division they're in and the division they're playing this year. So with a team like this, a bottom of the barrel team, we're not looking for the floor because the floor's 0. So we're looking for their ceiling. How many games, is the highest that they could absolutely win? So starting within the division, I'm just going to give them 1 win. They had no wins last year in the division. So I'll give them 1 this year. Now I'm going to hand out all losses to all the playoff teams plus the 49ers, except for the Vikings. I think that they'll win maybe 1 of those matchups against one of these playoff teams. I kind of doubt it, but we're trying to find the ceiling here, remember? So we're trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think that the Patriots will be better than last year, and I also think that the Raiders and the Bears will be better than last year. I still think they're going to be pretty bad teams, but they'll be better. So of these 4 teams that are left, I think the best case scenario for the Giants is that they win half of them. So we'll give them 2. This puts the Giants only at 4 wins. That's 1 more than they had last year, and they had a much easier schedule last year. So I can see them winning max 1 more game. So to me, their ceiling is 5. The Vegas line is set at 5.5, and it's heavily juiced to the under. So, Vegas is also thinking they're going to win about 5 games here. So normally I would take a line like this, but I don't really want to pay all that juice. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to parlay that win total with another win total from another team that's heavily juiced, to kind of cancel out that juice. Obviously, it's harder to hit a parlay, but, I can't pay that kind of juice on a season-long bet. I don't want to tie my money up for 6 months, even though this is, I think, a sure thing. I mean, I think the Giants could lose on purpose. I've been saying this all year for the past year, to try to get Archie Manning next year if he even enters the draft. So we'll see. We'll see what they do. I don't expect it to be anything good. I'll be betting heavily against any team playing the Giants this year, same as I do every year. So I only have 1 best bet from the NFC East, and that is the Cowboys over 7.5 wins for the plus money. I've seen it. I got it at plus 100. I've seen it at plus 105. I have seen this line moving around a little bit. So, I probably wouldn't wait until you hear the reports. You're going to start hearing reports of Dak working with George Pickens. You're going to hear reports about him working with CeeDee Lamb. And, that's going to boost confidence in the Cowboys. So I would probably get this line a little bit earlier because I do think it's going to move to even money if it hasn't already on some books. And then I do like that Giants bet under the 5.5 wins, but I'm not paying that juice. So like I told you, if you want to parlay that with another bet, then go ahead and do that. But I'm not paying that kind of juice. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. We talked about the NFC East. We also have the NFC North video out. Next, we'll be talking about the NFC South, which, as you know, is one of the messiest divisions in the league. The Buccaneers have been dominating it for a long time now, but anyone could win that. It's always a toss-up. I mean, heck, you could win that division with a losing record and go to the playoffs. We've seen it happen a couple of times now since the creation of the NFC South. So we'll talk about that. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment so that you can push this video out to more people and support me in making this content for you. My picks and data will always be free. I will never charge you for any of that. So I would appreciate the little free things that you can do for me, like liking this video, commenting, maybe sharing it with your friends if they might be interested. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.